Good evening, family and friends, and thank you for coming. It's lovely to look out and see all of you, part of Toody's community, gathered here this evening. My sister loved community, the act of coming together, of connecting with others, of creating energy and being present. From the time of her diagnosis over a year ago to this past weekend, my sister has been present each day. She was grateful for the time she had. She did not want a funeral. In fact, being humble and modest, she had to be coaxed into agreeing to a celebration of life. Once she accepted the idea for this gathering, she provided us with lots of input, and she even became a little bossy. We're so honored to be able to provide her with what she wanted. Toody was on a spiritual journey. She would listen to tapes and read and do her meditations. I'd like to call up Walter Isaac, a dear friend, to read a favorite passage from Maya Angelou.
In the short time that I looked after Celia in various ways, I found her to be maybe one of the bravest people I've ever met. There was never one iota of fear in the face of her oncoming death. So this is from Maya Angelou, the poet. She said, "I've learned that no matter what happens or how bad it seems today, life does go on, and it will be better tomorrow. I learned that you can tell a lot about a person by the way they handle three things: a rainy day, lost luggage, and tangled Christmas lights. I learned that regardless of your relationship with your parents, you'll miss them when they're gone from your life. I learned that making a living is not the same as making a life. I learned that life sometimes gives you a second chance. I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw something back. I learned that whenever I decide something with an open heart, I usually make the right decision. I've learned that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. I've learned that every day you should reach out and touch someone. People love a warm hug or just a friendly pat on the back. I've learned that I still have a lot to learn. I've learned that people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel."
Thank you, Walter. Beautiful. I'd like to call on my sister Miriam to say a few words now.
It would be very helpful if we'd all just take a big breath right now for me. Can you do that with me? Okay, ready to go. The Dalai Lama said, "If you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito." I thought that one would create some laughter. Let's loosen it up. I'll do it again. So, I'll do it again. This was my opener. The Dalai Lama said, "If you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito." Yeah, the Dalai Lama is not known for his comedic skills, but although Toody was small in stature, and although the world she loved to live and work in was by her own choice, small, her impact was big and exceptional. Daughter, sister, wife, mother, grandmother, aunt, cousin, friend, teacher, tutor, writer, walker, reader, listener, laugher, confidant, dreamer. Tootie was the quintessential baby boomer. Born in August of 1945, she blazed a trail for the younger children of our family to follow. It's actually easy to chronicle the history of those decades through her hairdos and outfits. Whether it was matching poodle skirts that my mom made for her and Ricky, or her signature back-combed beehive that we affectionately refer to as the bird's nest, or watching my sisters iron their long hair on the ironing board in the 60s, and then don their patched jeans, or eventually moving into later decades in shoulder pads, large glasses, and business blazers, always with track shoes, of which Tootie had countless pairs of the same ones that she stockpiled in her basement, some beige and some black. In the 80s, Tootie was ecstatic that there was a new trend in getting your colors done and discovering what season you were. Having her color palette firmly established as an autumn provided her, a lover of order and systems, with a framework she used her entire life for clothes shopping. Not that she ever bought anything. I'm sure many of you are curious about her name. The etymology is the following. When my mom, Frida, was pregnant with Tootie, my mother's father, Zeta Kaddish, would refer to her tummy, which now we would call the bump, as in Yiddish, der Tuttik. Was macht der Tuttik? How is the bump doing? That apparently got shortened from Tuttik to Tootie. Celia was her academic and professional name, but she was always Tootie to us. When Tootie arrived on the scene in 1945, she came into a bustling, close-knit family of first-generation immigrants and Saskatchewan socialist farmers. Life in Winnipeg's North End on the corner of Polson and Aikens was boisterous and busy. The street was a veritable shtetl with lots of Eastern Europeans working hard to fulfill hopes and dreams for their many children. Think Fiddler on the Roof meets Bye Bye Birdie, and you get the idea. Tootie attended Parrott's Folk School from kindergarten up to and including grade 7, then Luxton, then graduated St. John's High. The values revolved around family first, hard work and education, bettering your lot, and helping those less fortunate. Values my sister took with her and embodied. My mother scrimped and saved to ensure that we had education and extracurricular lessons, whether that be piano, drama, tap dancing, swimming. Tootie was not a natural in these areas, although she worked very hard at them. Her skills and talents were less visible, less flashy, and were quietly being developed. They would emerge over time and then astound us. My brother Kenny and I came into the family of parents and two amazing older sisters in 1956. Tootie was 10 and Ricky was 6, but they were mini moms right from the start, which was a blessing since we were twins and my mother did not get a mat leave from my dad's tailor shop. My mother tells the story of having to sometimes wake Tootie up in the middle of the night to help her with the babies. This was the 50s and dads were not called upon. Tootie, who was 10 years old, would awaken and hold us and help my mom, no questions asked. Then the next morning she would get herself up and go to grade 5. In 1967, being a young woman at the University of Manitoba in honors math was somewhat unusual. The master's degree in science that followed in 1969, along with the National Research Council scholarship, was nothing short of remarkable. Tootie did some globetrotting in her 20s, with her studies taking her to Massachusetts, Montreal, Hebrew University in Jerusalem, all the while teaching math and working towards her master's of education, the beginning of a lifelong love affair with math education. She married Archie Prout in 1975, and they had 4 children in 6 years. You do the math. She balanced life as a mother with some part-time teaching, and in 1995, after some training courses in business, she began Math Imagine, her business of creating and selling math education products, as well as curriculum development and tutoring. Tootie loved stories, especially the behind-the-scenes version, the real story. One of her favorite shows is Charlie Rose, just a table and chairs and Charlie talking to his guests. I think she actually enjoyed the stories about making the movies or the shows or whatever more than the actual movies or the shows. Over the years, we accumulated our own stories with our own behind-the-scenes parts, and eventually that particular shorthand that is enjoyed amongst siblings. I refer to this treasure trove as our very own Sisterhood of the Traveling Ants. Here's a classic. Our extended family was attending a bat mitzvah years ago in Minneapolis. First of all, Tootie absolutely adored the fact that we were in 4 cars, which she referred to as the flotilla. This was well before cell phones, so there was a fair bit of organization that had to take place. She was most excited when the flotilla was intact. As luck would have it, I got to be in the hotel room with my mother, Auntie Ida, Auntie Sarah, and Auntie Tammy. When I think back on this occasion, of course they were likely in their 70s, but they seemed ancient to me. I was on a cot and they were in 2 double beds. It took a while for the ladies to settle down and get to sleep. I was awakened by a voice in the morning, and when I say morning, I mean 4 a.m., to hear the following. Tammy, how did you sleep? Silence and then a long answer. Things settled down. I was happy to get back to sleep on my cot, only to be awakened by Tammy saying, "And what about you, Ida? How did you sleep?" Game over. That morning when I met up with my sisters at breakfast, I told them the whole story complete with, "Tammy, how did you sleep?" And that became one of our signature morning greetings whenever we were together, especially on our vacations. And speaking about those vacations, how fortunate we were to spend a week a year, just siblings with my mom, in Florida or more recently in Arizona. My mom referred to this as the best week of the year. Tootie was my roommate in Arizona. I'd like to describe how she would come to bed. Always an alternative regarding health. In addition to her night guard, special pillow, knee pads, chin guards, she believed that turmeric was very helpful as an anti-inflammatory, so she would basically smear it on her like sunscreen. There was so much preparation and seasoning going on, it was hard to know if I was sleeping next to a person or a brisket. A special memory will be our last sibling trip, which we had this February. In addition to the regular activities, including walks and sharing meals, we managed to debrief much of what we had been going through in the last year. In particular, my sister's diagnosis, her illness, her courage, her inspiration, and the fact that we all have each other and how much we relied upon that and still do. We're so happy we had that week, and also so happy that she was able to be in Arizona the week before with her daughter Shoshana and precious grandson Simon. Tootie began her quest with spirituality a number of years ago. She visited Haven and was very involved with Tai Chi, personal growth, the Center for Conscious Living, and a number of alternative methodologies and approaches. She loved to listen to her meditation tapes and contemplate the meaning of life. We had frequent conversations where we would try to find meaning. You know the kind of talking I'm referring to, the talking you have with sisters, with intimates, a conversation that really doesn't have a beginning or an end. It's an ongoing, infinite back and forth, perhaps saying the same things over and over, where getting to the point is actually beside the point. I've never really met anyone else besides my sister Tootie who told a joke or story the way she did. She laughed so hard before she actually was able to say any part of the story or joke, let alone the punchline, that she had the crowd going well before the actual joke began. Frequently, the story or joke itself is not quite as funny as she was. Little actual material garnering raucous laughter. I call that pure comedic genius. Ricky says the sidewalks on Oak and Fleet Streets will miss her. Twice a day, rain or shine, or freezing winter, she took her walks. Tootie was extremely disciplined. Up until the day she died, she did her exercises. The order and structure she brought to her life gave her comfort and a sense of control. Comfort was important to her. She was a big fan of comfortable clothing. She drew a line in pantyhose. She would say, if you have to wear pantyhose, it's just not comfortable. Simple and casual was what she appreciated in clothes, in format, in conversation, in her environment. Years ago, when sweatsuits became trendy, she was ecstatic. She couldn't understand why we didn't wear them everywhere all the time. Not only did she value comfort, she was a master at providing them for others. Her ability to be present and caring set anyone and everyone at ease. She brought the same enthusiasm and curiosity to any conversation, whether it was the meaning of life, or dancing with the stars. She inspired us all in being present and in the moment, even when the moment was painful, especially when the moment was painful. A favorite quote of Toody's, which I use frequently, is, "The theory is simple, the practice is hard." Toody, you chose to live your life openly, with vulnerability and with love, not with fear. You accepted the changing dynamic nature of your own life and continually inspired all of us to do the same. Death ends a life, but not a relationship. Toody, you held all of us so often in our lives. Now we will hold you.
Toody loved music and its healing powers. When we asked her what songs she wanted for this celebration, she didn't hesitate in her choices. She said she wanted Imagine because she loved the lyrics. We have friends Susan and Sam Bardman and Sean Burke, a family member, who will play for us. Thank you for that lovely song. I would like to now call on John Barsby, a friend and a math colleague.
Celia and I were students together at the University of Manitoba more than 50 years ago. We were both in honors math, so we had many classes in common. And because there weren't a lot of honors mathematics students, these were small classes, and we got to know each other very well. We kept in touch after graduation and got together from time to time, often with our mutual friend, Carolyn Wilkinson. Whenever we met, the discussion inevitably turned to mathematics. In the early days, we would discuss things like advanced theorems in linear algebra or complex analysis. But in more recent years, our mathematical discussions turned to loftier topics, like the multiplication tables and the addition factors. All three of us were math teachers, so whenever we got together, we had an awful lot to say. We were all passionately interested in what we were doing, and conversations always lasted a long time. After graduating from honors math in 1967, Celia did her master's degree here in Manitoba and teacher training in Israel. I well remember the first time I saw her after she returned to Winnipeg. Carolyn and I met her for coffee at a downtown restaurant called the Velvet Glove. And we sat there all afternoon. I don't know how many hours it was, but we talked and talked and talked. And what I remember most vividly from that day is Celia's description of her first practice teaching experience in Israel. She was standing at the blackboard in front of a group of students that she really didn't know. She was writing the Hebrew words from right to left, the mathematical equations from left to right, but somehow she never managed to leave the right amount of space where they were supposed to meet in the middle. But what I remember most about that story was the woe-begone expression on her face as she told it. When it came to matters mathematical, Celia's facial expressions always told us exactly what she was thinking. There was that glint of absolute delight at a particularly elegant proof or a problem with a nice solution. And then there was the frown of consternation anytime things weren't working out the way she thought they should. Over the years, Celia taught in the classroom, offered workshops to teachers, served on the executive of the Manitoba Association of Mathematics Teachers, edited their monthly journal, sat on provincial curriculum committees, and wrote vast amounts of material for the Department of Education. She also found time to write books for young people, books of puzzles, and books designed to teach basic number skills. Her cross-number books have been used by teachers and parents around the world and have been translated into French. What she particularly loved doing was the one-to-one tutoring, where she made direct contact with students of all grades. At the same time that they were learning from her, she was learning from them, analyzing the sources of their difficulties and developing new approaches for reaching them, approaches which often found their way into the books she was writing. Those of you who follow math education stories in the newspaper know that there has been debate between those who want more emphasis on skills in the classroom and those who are committed to discovery learning and concepts. Celia always saw this as a false dichotomy. She had her feet firmly in both camps and worked to promote both skills and understanding. Her work was publicly recognized over a year ago when she won the 2015 Murray McPherson Award for contributions to mathematical education in Manitoba. I feel honored to have known her all these many years and to have counted her among my friends. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We will now hear a reading done by Wendy Despens, a friend dating back to Celia's Tai Chi days.
We are loved by an unending love. Rabbi Shapiro. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by the arms that find us. Even when we are hidden from ourselves, we are touched by fingers that soothe us. Even when we are too proud for soothing, we are counseled by voices that guide us. Even when we are too embittered to hear, we are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us, even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us, even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by unending love. Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, and the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, and the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. From my friend Celia.
Thank you, Wendy. I would now like to call upon Shoshana, Tootie's oldest daughter, to say a few words.
"1976 was a big year for my mom and me. I was born, and Tootie became a mother. Over the next 6 years, she would have 4 children. Math expert or not, those numbers kept her busy. My siblings and I, Ronnie, Yaakov, and Zevi, were very lucky. We had playmates in each other, and a mother who was at home and busy taking care of our needs. We weren't allowed much TV. My parents were clearly ahead of their time. So there were lots of activities, trips to the library, Legos, crafts, baking, and lessons. And as you can imagine, timeouts. And we did most things on the bus because my mom chose not to drive. She had a driver's license because Baba Frida insisted, but she chose to remain a pedestrian and a lifelong bus taker. She knew all the routes and prided herself on getting errands done in between trips while using the transfer, because God forbid she would have to use another bus ticket. It's been said that the human heart is not designed to beat outside of the body. And yet, for mothers, each child represents just that. It's like a piece of their own heart, beating forever outside of their chest. My mom faced various challenges as a parent. And she took those challenges as opportunities for learning. Her children were the beneficiaries of excellent advice and role modeling, but most of all, she was present. Present to our needs, our stories, and our day-to-day lives. She took great interest in whatever was going on in our life, whether it was our work, our children, or our problems, or our issues. Naturally, as a parent, she was proud of us and our accomplishments, but most of all, she was happiest when we talked about our own journeys and how well we were doing. And learning. As great as a mother she was an unparalleled Baba. She spent hours playing with her grandchildren. Sometimes she was testing out her math theories, but mostly she was delighted in her development of her three grandchildren, Matthew, Ella, and Simon. She had special songs, activities, hand puppets for Skyping, and she would know all the news from daycare and from school. And she took great interest and pleasure in all of it. When we were young, my mom would spend time with each of us at bedtime, cuddling us and listening to our stories. But remember, there were 4 of us, and she was likely pretty tired herself, but everyone got time at bedtime. And Fridays were very special. All of us would help my mother clean the house while the wonderful food she made from scratch for Shabbos supper was cooking, and it smelled so good. And then later, we would all pile up on the sofa, and we would have her cozy blanket, which was a 70s era polyester house coat. It didn't matter. And we would watch Dallas. I also remember my mom being on the phone a lot when we were little. It seemed like she was always on the phone talking to somebody, her sisters, her mom, her in-laws, her friends, always on the phone. And when we moved out, we were added to the list. And so she would call us and ask us about our days, and we would discuss her days and our days. As Mark Twain said, to have full value of joy, you must have someone to divide it with. I know my mom would approve at both the mathematical level and the emotional and spiritual levels. Part of all of her children's joy came with sharing it with her. There's a Yiddish proverb that says, God cannot be everywhere, so he created mothers. My mother will live on in our family, where there is laughter or tears, stir fries or sushi, a story, a moment, a connection. Our love for her will not diminish, and we will miss her, even though we continue to experience her guidance and her love.
Thank you, Shoshana. Before we end with another of Tootie's favorite songs, I'd like to thank all of you for being with us this evening, for having been with Tootie not only throughout this past year, but always. We are grateful to family and friends for their support and acts of kindness, for their words, for being there for her and for us. Tootie chose 2 of her favorite places as her designated charities, Assiniboine Park, where she loved to go and be among the flowers, and the Winnipeg Public Library, which she frequented several times a week to take out numerous books that she loved to read. After this last song, please stay for some refreshments, and in honor of my sister, please debrief the celebration and enjoy being with each other. Thank you.